Well, this was a whirlwind weekend.
Yeah.
I won't go into the laborious details. Laborious as I had to do a lot of labor.
Mm-hmm.
But Saturday night, a half-dead Caleb went out with you and my wife to the Whiskey Rebellion
Woo-ha.
in our local slice of Americana. I guess that's not very Revolutionary War era.
Yeah.
Americana. Sounds Morse. I don't know what I'm saying, but long story short, we ended up at some fucking moonshine distillery.
Yeah.
Drinking fruity frozen
Ice
drinks
drinks.
and a bunch of random fire.
Yeah, it was just gasoline. I do believe he was giving us.
Here, sir, would you like to taste the turpentine? Smooth. Now here is a shot of straight gasoline.
We have a fine paint thinner as well.
Please taste the jelly bean on the counter as you need to reset your palate. Okay. Nom, 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 nom. And now this diesel fuel won't taste so bad. It tasted worse. Yeah, so we did that, and then Sunday eventually rolled around somehow. Sunday I had to do a bunch of chores and awful things, but I ended up editing the story I was working on, finishing it, doing the final read-through, and submitting it to the publication I wanted to submit it to. And that was like a 6-hour process altogether.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Like mostly straight. Like I stopped to eat dinner and I took the dog for a walk and stuff. But mostly as soon as I got home from doing all the dumb shit I had to do, I just sat there and finished the rewrites, which I only had, 10 pages of rewrites left. So I did those. The final read-through took a while because it's 15,000 word story.
Right.
And I was still, finding a couple things to change as I was going. But I managed to get that. The fucking actual submission probably took 45 minutes to an hour because the guidelines were so strict. Like,
yeah, because this is the one that had weird, no spacing, just one huge block and stuff, right?
It had odd formatting I've never encountered. So it had the standard, your name, word count, address, all that shit in the corner. But the one thing they did, which was bizarre, is no indents and no spaces between paragraphs. So essentially everything looked like one block of text. I was like, well, why? But they actually had a picture of how they wanted it done, so I followed that to the T. It looks hard to read, but maybe I'm assuming they'll just, when they go to review the submission, they'll just format the way they want. I don't know. Then I had to do the email, which was even more difficult because they had a whole list of things. But what I found troublesome was two things I never really do. One, an author introduction. And with the author introduction, it's not just, I'm Caleb, I like to write. It's why you're passionate about writing, and more specifically, why you think your piece is a good fit to the magazine. Or I guess this is an anthology I submitted to, but they do like a shit ton of different things, books, magazine, I don't know. So that was a little lengthy of a process because I'm not really good at that. And then the very next thing is basically a story synopsis, but you can pick one of two things. Do an elevator pitch, which I suck at, or do a full-on highlight all the key points in your story. So basically tell the whole story very fast. I chose pretty much, I guess, what would be the elevator pitch, and I ended my elevator pitch with John Carpenter's The Thing mixed with Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, because that's kind of what my story's like. I think that made it sound interesting. And then I had to do all the social media links, not just, at my handle. I had to actually do the links. I had to go to each website, copy, paste the link. I didn't have to do pictures or anything, but I had to do some other stuff. So it took a while.
That's crazy to all that and then maybe not even get accepted, maybe,
Yeah, the submission window closes at the end of July, and they say they'll get back to you in 7 days after the submission window closes. So if you submitted whenever it opened, that would be forever and suck. But since I only got a couple weeks, it's not too bad for me. So I probably have to wait, I guess, maybe 3 weeks. I personally think this is, if not the best story I've written, one of them. So I think it'll go. The only problem would be is if they get a lot of submissions for this anthology and my story just they don't need it. That would be the only likely way I could see it not getting accepted here. I found another publication that they don't take the word count, but they take 10,000, and I feel like I could talk them into it. Like I'll
Come
try
on.
to talk them into it.
Just read it.
And if I get real desperate, I'm gonna go back to Dark Homes Publishing and be like, listen, you only got the one anthology out now. Second anthology, you're gonna love this story.
Right.
I'm the guy. You already seen how much I posted about the first anthology. Put me in the second one. You don't even have to give me a bunch of money this time. Give me a little bit of money. It'd probably still be more money than I'm going to get off the fucking royalties of the one I'm submitting to. Because unless they sell a shitload, 30% royalties for a year, I don't think that's going to add up to,
Yeah,
big
especially in
moolah.
that, and that's gonna be weird considering on how many people they might have in the does everybody get 30%?
They said the cutoff is just 100,000 words for the anthology. So that could be, fucking how many 1,000 word stories. I don't know what their minimum was, but let's just say you get a bunch of 5,000 word stories. So that can, my story's pretty lengthy, but that doesn't mean everybody else's. So there could be a lot of authors, which would really fucking suck if my almost 15,000 word story nets me the same royalty rate as a guy who wrote 1,000 word story.
Yeah.
I'd be a little irritated. We all get paid the same amount of money. All right, one more order of business, unless you had anything you want to address.
I don't believe so. No.
You should, but I will address it for you.
Oh.
So first off, Caleb's big news. This is airing. Let me check the actual air date, Spencer. Don't you look at me while I do this.
I'm looking you right in the eyes.
Christopher Reeves watching as he keeps getting dissed by Eminem for no reason at all. He mentions Christopher Reeves a lot on his new album.
Yeah.
Like a ridiculous amount.
Well, he is trying to get canceled, so.
Yeah, Christopher Reeves died like 20 years ago. It's like, Jesus. Was I looking up calendar? Ooh. So as the airing of this episode, tomorrow, July 23rd, readings from Cursed Room 301 will be available for purchase.
Yes.
My story, The House of Shit, is in that. I should already have a promo out by now. I don't know if it's their Instagram. I don't know if it's at Madax, but they're Madax Media. If they just look up Madax Media, it'll show up. They're publishing my story, and it's a funny one. We were talking off air. I had to come up with a 2-story synopsis for the story for a promo thing they asked me to do earlier today. And I had to go back and reread a little bit of the story to remember what the fuck was going on. And pretty funny. Pretty funny story. Starts with the House of Shit, But you also got big news that you completely forgot about and you probably don't even know. The end of July, the last week of July, which, look at the calendar.
I haven't heard anything back from them about
2 weeks, so not next week, but the following week, I'm assuming, if it's the last week of July. I don't know. They didn't say the day. I just got off the website, but your story in Siren's Call.
Oh, yeah, cool. Like I said, I haven't heard anything back yet. Like, I haven't got an email or anything from anybody after, the...
On their website, it says it's coming out the end of the last week
okay.
of July, so should be out.
Cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, you have to share it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe make sexy tape about it.
Read my story.
Read my story. And give me money. You don't have to buy this one. It's free, but
it is free, but
give me money. I do think, maybe we'll address this in the episode, I do think I'm about 98% done with online-only magazines and stuff.
it'd be nice to be able to...
Unless they pay.
Yeah.
Unless they pay decent. Like, if Siren's Call paid me $100, I just always submit to them.
Right.
Like, okay, here's another one. We know we'll talk about that more in the episode, so let's not have a 40-minute cold open. We'll be back in just a jiffy. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Ready podcast. You're here with us and you're staying.
We got you, and you're going to stay for the next 30 to 45 minutes, brother.
Whoa, we can't do wrestling promos right now because this is going to be a long episode if we do wrestling promos. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Utah Urine Undulator Church. Undulate, it means move smoothly up and down. Or
so I'm just like...
I mean,
I'm having smooth pisses in Utah, or I'm pissing on stuff smoothly.
I was thinking more like you were swishing it in your mouth.
Ah.
Or like you're like, wait, hold on. You were more like, It's not good to do with mineral water. It's carbonated. So we actually had a request for today's episode, so we're going to do the request.
Which would be nice if you guys would request more things so we don't have to come up with things to do.
And lasses and other, not just guys. Mostly guys probably listen. So. Actually, we have so many women guests that want to come on lately. Maybe all our listeners, maybe we should clean up our act. Or, well, I don't know. Every woman we've ever had on seems to like that we're profane, gross, nasty guys.
Yeah.
The Nasty Boys podcast. That's probably a wrestling podcast. Are the Nasty Boys... Who were was it Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten? Were they the Nasty Boys?
I believe so, yeah. I think
Balls Mahoney might have died. Or Axel Rotten. Or both. If they're still alive, I'd be amazed.
Yeah.
Mr. Mike Holmes, who is a long-time listener. I don't know if he's been listening a long time, but he is our most frequent listener that communicates with us. So that's correct to say. That's a fair assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So he was asking if we could do an episode, or more specifically, he was interested on how we write. Do we ever use outlines? Do we take an idea and somehow get a story to develop from that? Do we use certain apps or softwares for just a story? And for a novel, are we using software to help with that? So basically, he wants to know about the writing processes and things like that. So do you want to tackle the writing software stuff? Yours is pretty simple.
Yeah. I mostly just use Google Docs for the most part. With Grammarly, the free, edition, to help with edits.
Mainly just spelling and some grammar.
Yeah, I did on the old computer purchase Scrivener, and then so I don't know if I would want to do that again. I would have to repurpose.
Yeah, the license. You just put the license in.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to download it again, but just put the license and you can use it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works.
You just gotta look up the license.
Yeah.
Well, it should be in the email you bought it when you bought it.
Oh, okay.
If you have the email. I know you have the email. You have 48,000 emails that are non-deleted.
Yeah. So I got that one time for a story and then didn't ever end up using it. I wanted to, but it was kind of one of those things I was always kind of daunted by, like how much stuff you can do with it.
Yeah.
That I kind of just always got intimidated by trying to use it.
There was a major learning curve with it. I still don't know all the stuff on it. For me, I use Google Docs as well for short stories. One, because it's free. Two, it's easy to share between friends and publishers. And three, I hate Microsoft Word. Yeah. I have an awful story for you. When I first started getting into this big old writing business.
I do believe I remember this story.
I don't remember the story. It was very long. It might have been a novella I was writing, actually, and I almost was completed. I want to say it was like 30,000 words or something. And this is when cloud technology was not very good. So Microsoft Word had some kind of cloud feature. So it would like auto-save on the cloud feature, and then when I would be writing, I would save on the actual just a Word document on my PC. But for some reason, at some point, they combined somehow. So what happened was like something with either the cloud or my PC went back to one of the, like it reverted back to some older version, and I end up losing without any way to recover almost the whole story. Like it reverted back to when I first started. Maybe the PC version must have been saving on the cloud or something. Something shit the bed. But anyway, I got very mad and I said, fuck you, Microsoft Word. Actually, I kept using it and it happened again later to another story. And then I said, fuck you, Bill Gates. Fuck you, Bill Gates. Fuck you, Xbox. And fuck your face, jabronis. And then
you will not have my money.
You will not have my money and you will fuck your butt. You'll suck at the cock. I like saying that to strangers. You'll suck at the cock. Yeah, say it real throaty. Cock. So yes, Bill Gates can suck at the cock. And then I got rid of that. And then not too long after, the old, I think I used something in between. But yeah, the Google Docs worked well for me. Novel-wise, I write, at least I've been writing my novel by hand and transcribing it into Scrivener. I like Scrivener, and I would use it for the short stories, but like you said, when it is daunting, but you can put the scene layouts and stuff. It's just, when I have a short story that's like under 10,000 words, it's just really not needed. And also, you can't use the Grammarly with the Scrivener, and I mainly just use Grammarly for spelling and very minor grammar corrections. Sometimes it does tell me like a sentence structure could be better, because I don't do the Premiere shit either. But there is a different software I will eventually get when I'm finished with my novel, which works with Scrivener, and it's better than Grammarly. And I will pay for that and use it because you can use that offline.
Oh, yeah.
Which is nice. But also, like, Google Docs is nice, like, for stories because I do a lot of writing on my phone now.
Yeah.
Like, just when I'm on the go, and it's way easier just to do that. Because you can, like, finagle it to get Scrivener on your phone, sort of. Or
but then you'd have to worry about them syncing up. And
yeah,
kind of like with your story. Yeah, you might lose something.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So that's the exact reason why I don't try that. But I do like the Scrivener, and I've written, like, the anthology that we were going to put out was like 90-something% done, and I had most of that in Scrivener, like the scenes.
Because that makes sense for something
so
like
much
that.
easier for the layouts. It's like, oh, this, like, say you're using a novel, chapter 2 should be where chapter 4 is. You could just move the whole thing in just one go. Like, it's so much simpler. Whereas, like, if you use Google Docs for a novel or anthology collection, you'd have so many fucking separate documents, or just one giant one.
Right.
That'd be terrible, too. So, yeah. And also, Scrivener saves on your computer. It's not a cloud service, so you don't... Because Google, technically, all our stories could be gone tomorrow.
True.
All you gotta do is lose your Google account for some reason. Or Google just goes down or whatever. You could lose... That's happened to people. I always think, I need to back this shit up and... like with my story,
like a hard drive or something.
Yeah, like with my story last night, I back up my computer once in a while on my but I mean, like, actually save the files onto my computer. But I've been downloading stories here and there, like when they're done. I mean, usually I download every story because I submit it places, so I do have copies on my computer, which is nice. But like just having, I'm writing the story, I should back up and like just save it randomly here and there. But yeah, Scrivener is pretty cool. Has a lot of features. You can basically publish in any EPUB, PDF, like anything you could think of in there, which you can't do with Google Docs. Google Docs has like the basic ones, like Word doc or PDF or whatever. But publishers, they always use Word for whatever reason still. So like Google Docs, that translates. So you'd be like, okay, I'll send you through here, and they send it back. And that is a problem with Scrivener, which you'd have to worry about. It's like, oh, if I send them the edits, I send them the manuscript, the editor sends back the edits that I have to work on. They're going to send it in a Word file, and then I got to, like, how do you put that back in Scrivener? Because one thing I found is, like, the copy things from Google to Scrivener, like, the formatting is all fucked up.
Right.
So I haven't figured out. I'm not good enough with that stuff. I don't have the patience. There's too much to learn.
What I think makes me weird, too, is, like, the little bit I've used of Scrivener is, like, because, like, you know, like, with the Google page, you can scroll down to the end of the page, you know, and stuff. And when you type, it's like when you hit a page, it's like, oh, new page or whatever. And you can just keep on. It's like one long document, isn't it? Like,
I always wrote in the distraction free thing they have up top. Like you click on it and then all you see is your document. I think that splits in maybe. I don't remember. But if you look at the bottom, it tells you what page you're on and stuff. Yeah. I think, and the word count and stuff, which is nice too, because you think that. Such a simple feature should be on everything, but like Google Docs, Word, you always have to like go and what's the word count, but it just says on the bottom on Scrivener.
Well, at least on mine, whenever I go to check the word count, it does a box saying I can click, so it just shows the word count.
Oh yeah, maybe I just never looked into it. Also, Grammarly, when you're working on long stories, it fucks up a lot.
It gets wonky a little bit.
Yeah, and then it like gives weird suggestions, and then sometimes
or just
like
miss suggestions.
It misses them, but then it'll tell you later, which is irritating. So Grammarly is not perfect. Like I said, mainly just spelling.
My favorite with the Grammarly is where it gives you a suggestion and you switch it, and then it gives you another suggestion that tells you to switch it to the thing that you just had it on. Yeah. And so you switch it again, and it just keeps on back and forth, back and forth.
It gave me really, like when you use older language, it gives the stupidest suggestions because a lot of the words it just doesn't recognize. And then also, because my last story set in 1903. So some of the words are a little more... Like, I use some, like, biblical words and stuff because the guys are, like, religious Irish. And it does not recognize those. But then the ones it does, it's weird. Like, so I have one where I remember the line because it's fucking pissing me off. One of the guys, I think he says, I give you my word as a gentleman. And then the other guy's like, you're neither gentle nor a man.
Yeah.
It kept wanting to change gentle to Gentile.
Oh.
Like, what the fuck? It's like, why are we changing it to Gentile? No, gentle. He's not. What's a Gentile? Like Jewish or not Jewish? Something Judaism. It's like, no, that doesn't fit. So things like that are a little bit annoying. As far as my writing process, and I think we've talked about this in the past on maybe different brainstorming episodes and stuff, but mine has definitely evolved over the years. For me, the hardest thing is the first draft. Like once I get the story down, I really enjoy rewrites and edits. So I can go through the fucking, for weeks at a time, just like perfecting my story. I love doing that. But that first draft, I just get like bogged down and irritated, and I don't know. It's not that fun. And the ideas and stuff, I usually get ideas from strange places. Like a lot of times it's actually like I'll hear either a song lyric or just like the melody, like click something in my head, or I get, just like an image or something. Like maybe I'll see like a little kid like dancing in the like on the sidewalk or something, and then it's just like I get this fucking immediate like flood of just imagery and weird ideas, and I don't know why, but my brain always just usually goes to bad stuff, like murder and mayhem. But
worst case scenario,
yeah. And like I'll listen or I'll see like certain things, and it just like always is just a wave of creativity that hits me. But the problem is that always happens when I'm already working on something, and then I have to like either put it aside or take notes. But it's one of those things where it's like weird inspiration that if I don't get it, then it's gonna lose it.
Yep.
So I probably lose a lot more stories than I ever write because I can't, if you start one and then all of a sudden you get inspiration and just go to another one.
It's like catching like a whole bunch of fish with a net,
Yeah.
You can, some get through, some,
Yeah, so that just doesn't work out.
Hopefully you catch the good ones.
Yeah, hopefully catch the good ones. I always catch fucking snapper. So what about you? How do you normally go into a story? You just see things, or just like, I'm just going to think real hard and then maybe I'll come up with something? Because that never works for me.
Yeah,
like, if I try to think of a story, it never works.
No, that the thinking is the hardest part.
Like that whole thing about like having like a muse where you just pull a story idea like it's magic out of thin air. That's actually how I get almost all of my story ideas. It's never me sitting down going, I need to write a story. What would make a good story?
Right.
Never that.
Well, yeah, like I can like plop I can pick the cool kind of interesting ideas, but it's and then like what to do with that idea is always the situation. I feel like it kind of varies on depending on what I'm writing. Like if I'm writing a smaller a short story or whatever, I probably won't do too much of like an outlining or anything. Unless if it's like a crazy detail to where like, it involves things to where I could, get confused and mix stuff up or whatever. But the type of stories I tend to tell, I don't normally have like a whole huge cast of characters and stuff like that.
That's where my last story was interesting because this is an ensemble piece.
Right, yeah.
I think 6 guys in one room.
That's probably the most you've had in a story, probably.
I think so. So that was kind of tough, making them all have individual personalities and ways they speak, so you can separate them. A lot of fucking dialogue, like tags, and that you gotta, am I using this guy's name too much? It was fucking confusing.
There's been some longer stories or more like kind of complex stories where I have done like some light scribble outline of more of just kind of like, I want this person to do this and that will have this thing happen or whatever, but not or like if I think of a good like line of dialogue or something that I want to make sure I don't forget, like, oh yeah, say this thing, that's gonna hit really good or something like that. But
I find when I do outlines, they're usually bare bones like that. It's to get just all the ideas out real quick. It's like, okay, this happens, and this happens. That also helps keep the pace when I go into the story because I know where I got to hit certain beats, or okay, this is going to be the climax, so I need to ease back on the action until I get there.
Like I said, and I'm not sure like with your novel, whatever, but because I haven't really tried anything novel sized yet. But I could see myself there too, at least in the of like, chapter 1, these 2 characters.
I tried doing that with my novel, and I did almost the whole thing outline like that, except the ending. And not even halfway through, I fucking had so many chapters that weren't in the outline just came up naturally. But I'm still using it as a path, so at least I know where I'm supposed to go. But yeah, I was not able to follow. I can't do a strict outline. I can't.
No!
I have to go here to here to here. Just doesn't work like that for me. But
like I think that's more for like kind of maybe like pacing, or like horror or suspense stories. I think that is where it kind of
when you have a lot of reveals and things.
Yeah, or just like because we've heard Paulie Cooley talk about on the Dead Robot Society, and we brought up too, like the idea of like you end a chapter with something fucking crazy going down, and then the next chapter is just something that is like with a whole nother group of people or something, like, you know what I mean? So you have that cliffhanger, and then that chapter ends, and then maybe you go back to the original cliffhanger or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think like having either like an outline or notes at least. Yeah, maybe outlines might not be the best thing, but like at least some notes, just so you know, like, oh, I do have to get back to that thing. Like I never went back to that, or
even more like chapter summaries instead. I find that works better for me, where it's like, this is what's kind of gonna happen. Like this is
at least what I think I want to happen at least, and like, and then when you start it goes to wherever.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna have two characters have a big fight in this chapter, and it's gonna be an argument about this, and then this guy's gonna end up getting knocked out or something, and that's just the summary of the chapter versus like, oh no, he has to do this and then that.
Right.
And the summary's better for me. The one issue I have when it comes to doing like outlines and stuff is, at least I found with my novel, and you mentioned it with like, oh, you want to write down a line you don't want to forget. I ended up with so much shit that I'm like, oh, fuck, when I go back through my notes, I'm on chapter 15. This line was supposed to be in chapter 1. Now I have to go back and fucking like force it in because it's a good line. And then you find you're working against your own best interest because you're trying to force things that sound cool, or maybe they will add to the story, but you didn't write it in a linear path. So it's like, I got to find a way to get it back in there, carve out room. And it just, I don't know. I get too many ideas down, and then it's hard for me to, I must need to be more organized because I look at my notes. Cause one thing for me, I had a notebook. I wrote all the summaries down and the chapter outlines. And then I had a notes app on my phone where I put lines and cool imagery and certain scenes I want and some wording that I liked that I just came up with. Like, oh, I'm not even close to that part, but I'll write it down. But then when I get there, I forget to look at the fucking notes, and it's like, because you can't, like, I get pages of notes, you can't just read them all every fucking time.
True, yeah.
I will get rid of the ones that I already used.
That's a good idea.
But a better categorization would be, hey, let me mark off the note that I wrote. Like, okay, I used this, and I used it on page blah blah blah, chapter blah blah blah. That would be a better idea. In my notebook is nice because it's numbered. So at the beginning, I have been keeping the chapters and what pages they're on, so I can go back. The transcribing, I started it, but I was only on like chapter 1, and then I was like, well, you know what? I'll wait till I get back to the novel full time before I go back to and I'll transcribe everything I have once. That way I can get caught up back, because I was almost halfway through the story.
Oh, so you're gonna use the transcribing as a refresher of the story.
Yeah, so I can reread
and then start over when you get to the end of that.
Yeah, because you think it's tough keeping track of things in a short story when you take breaks. Try a fucking novel where, like, I don't even remember some of the characters' names now. It's like, I gotta go back and, like, what were they doing? And, like, I got those notes already getting erased on the wall there. And yeah, I need to do a better job of that stuff. But I still think I like my writing process. I just need to be more strict with it. Like like I said, the editing, like this whole week and a half, I've been editing one story, but like hours at a time. And just like get real focused, and I love that. I just wish I could do that with the first draft, because that's what drags. Like, I have a deadline coming up, and I have to get a story finished, and it's just like, I just don't feel like it. But now that I'm not having competing stories, because I was working on 3 things at once, now that I just have the one I'm going to focus on, I should be able to knock it out quickly. But again, if I could just shit out that first draft, be nice and empty, and then I go back with the rewrites with a clear mind and just fucking really tack away and hammer it home. And I'm a better polisher than I am an initial writer. But I think a lot of writers are probably like that. I mean, I hear some people say, oh, yeah, I don't have to edit my work. I edit as I go, and then it's just polished and done. I'm like, fuck you, you're not.
Well, we've heard a lot of indie writers say that, yeah.
I mean, no joke. I could, with like a 5,000-word story, maybe go back and edit that thing 15 times before I submit it. Because, I mean, I know it'll never be perfect, but I want it to be the best I could get it where it's within the reasonable time. Say I have a deadline. I want this story to be top notch. Like, that's one thing I want to take away. Even if you didn't like the story, I want you to at least say the writing was well done. Like, I've never had anybody complain like, oh, the story was badly written. Like, I never get that. If anything, I get, oh, I didn't really care for the story. I could take that. That's just personal preference. Or if you just don't like my writing style, I can accept that too. But you can't say it's badly written, you know?
Right.
So that's not gonna fucking happen. That's not gonna fly. What else did he ask us? So did we touch on everything? We used the outlines.
I think he was asking about why you're so gaping, I think, as he said in there.
Well, you start off small,
and then you generally work your way up.
Once you get to wine bottles, it starts to get a little easier, and then you get to baseball bats and metal.
See, I find the baseball bats easier because they're more sturdy.
The wine longer glass handle too.
The wine glass you got to be careful.
Well, it's the hand, the top part. You know, the what do they call that? Not a handle. The top of the neck. See, you're a writer. You know words. I wish I knew words. Undulate. Undulating or urine. But I like writing sometimes. I like when, it's going to sound stupid, I like writing when I like writing.
Yeah.
I like it when I hit a story that I'm enjoying.
Well, how about, I can't remember if he specifically messaged it in the comment or not, but it kind of goes along with everything with like, what about your, your setup? Like, because I feel like that's one thing. I don't have like a really good like writing set. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have like a desk in the corner. I can just,
we had
stick my nose in. I know it's the thing we've talked about before.
I was gonna say we have an episode dedicated to writing spaces, and it was one of my favorite episodes. I thought it was really good. Again, with the editing, I find my desk, or if I'm just laying in bed on my computer or wherever I am, just as long as I can get absorbed in it, basically just somewhere you're comfortable. And you can drown out the world. But I am not one of those guys that could be like, I'm going to write every day at 5 o'clock in this area. It just doesn't work for me. I have to just be where I could get in the zone quickly. Sometimes that's in my fucking work truck. I'm just writing down notes. Sometimes it's on lunch when I'm in a cafe. Sometimes I'm in a noisy environment and I could drown out the world. Other times everything's completely quiet. I can't fucking focus at all and I just want to touch my phone.
Did you ever want to try to be one of those guys that go to, takes like the laptop to like the Starbucks or something like that?
I've done that before with some local cafes and it's okay. It's one of those things when it's like a crowd ambience. Like it's an environment where people are talking and chatting.
It's not overbearing.
Yeah, like you could drown it out. Almost like if you have like maybe a TV on the background, you can just ignore it. But if it's just like one person was talking,
it'd be annoying.
It's like that one cricket.
Yeah.
A choir of crickets is fine.
Yeah, but the one cricket.
Just one fucking cricket or grasshopper. You're like, shut the fuck up, I can't kill you dead. Here's another interesting thing. I don't know if you encountered this or not. But I find in my writing, going back to like, I enjoy when my writing is easy, when I'm liking a project. I find it's the same as reading. I've read things that are challenging that it's almost as if I didn't really enjoy it when I was reading it. But then when I was done, I was very happy with it and I liked it.
I finished it.
Yeah, like Jerusalem. I was like, I really love Jerusalem. I'd recommend everyone. But when I was reading, I was like, fucking goddamn it. So hard. And then I find my writing's the same way sometimes where if I'm working on a certain story, usually it's the stories I like the most when they're done. Like I remember my Asher Kang story was pretty fun to write, but some of like half of that story was daunting because it took I wanted the Asher Kang bits, the head cleaving and stuff. But then I also had like there's an old king is the converging plot lines. He has his own plot, and his plot is more not giant action scenes for the most part. So I was like, I want to write these scenes. I just want to write the fun scenes. So I find that with a lot of my fiction, I can go into it and it's like, I don't enjoy it at all. But then when it's done, I'm like, I love this. This was the best.
Now that just brought up another thing that neither one of us really do, but it is a technique that you can do. Like if you are, especially with like, if you have the different software and stuff to make it easier, like Scrivener is like, if you're writing a story with multiple storylines, I've heard like some people, what they'll do is they'll write out each kind of storyline, like, you know what I mean? And, they know when they're interject or something, you know what I mean? But then they can take those parts and, this is chapter 1, and then we jump to this for chapter, this part of
Scrivener has a storyboard feature.
Yeah.
So you can see it visually, like a storyboard, and you can move it, which is nice. So if you do converging plot points or anything like that, you wouldn't really have to focus on it. You could, if you wanted to write one person's whole story, the other's whole story, and then whenever it's supposed to converge or cross paths or anything, you do that together or whatever. But yeah, that's a lot. I think the old school method of that is either just on a board, like a whiteboard. Here's is where he goes, like a graph, and then here's where he goes, and then here's where they meet up.
But still, that's just sometimes I've noticed just a little bit when I've had to try to do some of that stuff in my writing, it could be like a little harder being like, or figuring out like, okay, this part of this person's story is going to be chapter 1, and then chapter 2 is going to be more of that, or this other stuff, and like, you know what I mean? So
the hard part about doing that is making it flow in a way that's natural.
mm-hmm.
So you can, like Master Kang story, I think I did that very well because one, I tried to leave most of it's not in chapters, it's kind of in chapters.
You just do like page breaks or like scene breaks.
Kind of, but it's like it starts off almost like in chapters. I think there's even like 1, 2, 3. So I would say it's like the Conan stories. Remember, they're not technically chapters, but maybe they are because it's one story. I would just say it's chapters. Let's treat it like it's a novella, you know? So I would have one chapter, let's say it was like an Asher Kang, something's happened to him. I would kind of end it on a cliffhanger, a mini cliffhanger. Then I'd go into the next part. So you're like, well, I want to know what happened to that. So you read through this part, and then I end that on something. It's like, well, I want to know what happens to that. Right. You go back to the previous. I like just going back to the previous one, and you can continue the story that way. It gets more challenging when you do things where it doesn't do that. So it's like, okay, this is this person's story, and this is that person's story. But then we're going to throw in like some weird shit here, or we're going to split up the book and go into something completely different and then go back to things, or we're going to have flashbacks. So it's like, let's say I use an Asher Kang. He's in the battle and he's fighting. He's about to get his head chopped in. Next chapter opens and it's just the king story. And he's riding down having, he's going to a lecture hall and he's going to talk to his men and rouse them up for a war. And then it ends with an attempted assassination. This is the end of my story, but an attempted assassination. And then it goes back to Asher Kang. But now it's a chapter where he's in the past reliving his childhood and how he became who he is. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Not like that's... I don't like that's you could do that well if you're good at it, but for me, I would get too fucking bogged down.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know where I was, and I'd mix things up. But just doing like the converging plot lines is fun. I don't know how many I could do. Like, could I ramp it up and do 3 people, 4, 5, 10? I've read books where it's like a bunch.
Yeah,
I read Faulkner where it's just everything at once. Everything, mid chapter, mid sentence. You never know. Somebody's other story gets melded in. It's weird. You can do it very well, but you have to be a smart fella. I'm not that smart of a fella.
You dummy.
I'm a big old dummy head. We'll end it on this, unless you had another thing you wanted to...
Not that I can. I don't think we've covered a lot of it.
All right, so we'll end on this. What things do you want to try in your writing that you haven't tried yet? Whether it's a story, like a narrative device, a story... the way to tell a story, plot device, way to have characters interact or perspectives, anything.
Yeah. I would probably want to try
anal.
Some like experimental stuff, like where it's just like it can be a little more out there, kind of, like, you know what I mean,
like some stream of consciousness
kind of stuff. But I don't know if I'm quite at prepared enough for that. But that is like something I would like to try. I'm guessing more a thing that I kind of like, my next step I think I need to take is the multiple storylines, because like I've had like multiple characters, but they're all kind of the same, like, you know what I mean, going towards the same thing and the same stuff going on.
A good way to ease into that is if you had it start off where everyone's together and then maybe they split up.
Yeah,
and then that'd be a little easier than like starting off this person and this person, and then at some point you have to bring them together.
Yeah, it's like the Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
you just have all this shit, and then you have to try to bring it together. Like,
it's easier to split it up and bring them back because you already established like who they are and what they're doing and stuff.
But like, so either like the experimental stuff or the getting into things where I have longer stories with either chapter breaks or longer short stories with scene breaks that have the kind of multiple either storyline or maybe even just it's the same storyline but the characters' perspectives, like, you know what I mean, it's normally through one kind of character for the most part, unless if I'm doing like a third person to where like it's not really either one of the main characters kind of stories, it's kind of like both of them or whatever. But I think like that kind of stuff,
that could be fun. I think I'm at the point where I want to try some, I think more like testing the limits of genre with literary styles. So maybe write a story that's just a block, like just one sentence or But yeah, I want to test more things where it's like, can I tell a story and that's just one long, maybe some David Foster Wallace bullshit but like try to make it like more genre so it's more fun. Because I feel like a lot of the literary fiction I've read where it's more experimental, maybe stream of consciousness or even using like Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury, where it's just like, oh, we have fucking 50 different time periods in every other sentence and it's all confusing. I think that stuff could be done very well, but more fun.
Yeah, because that's always pretty dry from what I can tell from you guys.
I mean,
when you talk about it,
we got a taste of it with like Slaughterhouse-Five. Like you're jumping time frame, like time periods in this guy's life, sometimes in every paragraph. But because it's a fun sci-fi time travel story with literary elements, it's enjoyable. Whereas if that was just like, they're just poor dirt farmers in 1800 and now they're poor dirt farmers in 1850 and now coming into the 1900s in the third paragraph, they're still poor dirt farmers. And then 1910 comes and they lost their dirt farm. It's like, I don't fuck it. That's just sad. But if I could just have like, aliens or monsters or shit like that. Like, I think I touched on that with my monster story, The Dead Men Don't Scream, the one I just finished and submitted. I think I touched on some literary elements just with like, it's fun and it's goofy and there's monsters, but I think the language is slightly challenging. Not for avid readers, but if you're, say like just a YA reader or just like maybe a kid in high school, you might have to look up some of the words or some of the phrasing might like be like, wait, that's a little like, it's not just an easy, so, I don't even want to say Stephen King because Stephen King uses, he'll send you the dictionary once in a while, or he'll fucking send you searching for what exactly does it mean by that? Or,
ejaculate.
Well, I used ejaculate. I used ejaculate. I got to look it up because I think I used it in a good way.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe I didn't. I didn't use it as a dialogue tag this time, which I haven't. I don't think I've ever used it as a dialogue. J.K. Rowling and Stephen King, for some reason, always use ejaculate as a dialogue tag. I think for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Like just like once.
With Stephen King's just like, ejaculate.
I have to go to the bathroom, he ejaculated.
All over the seat.
It would help if I spelled it right. Edulate. One occurrence. The room was dark and two figures, bedimmed and shifting strangely, were several feet ahead of him. Where am I? Francis wondered. He watched as the figures moved. One of them was more detailed and ejaculated odd sounds. No, not sounds, words. He was coming out of a concussed state. Ejaculated. So that is where we are, and I'm sure there's more things we could talk about, but we are at 45 minutes. So.
We can save that for another episode.
Another day, and not another dollar. We don't get no dollars. I would like some dollars.
It'd be nice to have $1 every once in a while.
Maybe if they pay me for this story. It's a good goddamn story.
I'd say that's the royalty one, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Mike, it's funny because I think this is the first story of mine he read because I published it, or I put it up on the DPW site for like a week or something. A long, when I first wrote it, wrote this, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
So I put it up there.
I was going to say, is this one the one you printed out for him to read?
No.
Oh.
This was just on the DPW site a long time ago, and I remember he read it, and he said he liked it. But
you changed it so much.
Yeah, I would love to get his opinion on rereading it because it's the same story, but it's almost like someone else wrote it, I think. I think it, because I changed so much, and I think I made it a lot better. So.
Well, you had to cut like 5,000 words, right?
No, I only had to cut a few thousand. So that was a DPW minute. If Spencer ever gets his shit together
and put some work out,
next week we should be discussing David Scott Hayes' NSFW.
Mm-hmm.
That is our book of the month. And then after that, I would like to start the Murakami Minute. Murakami's manga stories. That shouldn't take long. And those might be separate Friday episodes like we used to do.
Yeah, I don't think we fully discussed yet how we were gonna record those. Or
people really like those on YouTube for some reason, but I don't know if that's a good idea just to replace the Monday episode. We don't think we did those in the past.
No, they were always extra.
Yeah, extra content because they're also short too. They're like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Usually we try to keep it under 30 minutes. Sometimes we go long, and then at some point, Spencer wants to do gay for gay men. I said gay men, guys, but he wants to do gay for gay men. So I don't think it's going to go over well.
Maybe.
Maybe it'll go over great.
It depends on the audience we get.
Maybe we'll do a poll next when we cover gay men books. What's the name of the podcast segment? Gay for gay men, guys, other. And you pick the other.
Why can't it be the getting gay with the gay guys? So what with gaming guys, getting gay with gaming guys, whatever it is.
You just said getting gay with gay guys. What else are you gonna do with the gay guy? Well, I guess you can watch a ball game. Gesticulating with gaming.
And we still have to figure out a or October Halloween book,
which seems to be coming up too quickly.
Way too quick.
I'm also getting nervous because after next week's book drop, or I guess if you're listening to this, tomorrow's book drop, the readings from Cursed Room 301, I have nothing coming out.
You're going to have to get back to work. And
I've been submitting like a motherfucker. I got a lot of work submitted. I haven't heard anything in months, really. I think I got like 1 or 2 rejections in the last like month and a half. And they were just like things I didn't think were going to get in anyway. So it's like I have so many things I'm waiting on. I'm just like, what's going on? What's going on, bro? What's going on? You know?
I don't know.
You don't know? I don't know. Nobody knows. Getting gay with gaming. So that was the DPW podcast. If you want to check us out on social media, we are on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at DPW Podcast. Spencer's OnlyFans this week was the Nantucket Nut. No. The
Utah.
The Utah Undercarriage Undulator.
No, it dealt with urine.
Urine. The Utah Urine Undulator.
Yeah, so I think that's what it was.
On OnlyFans still?
Yeah.
Or was it Grindr? You said Grindr. Just gave in. You can also check out my stuff at calebjamesk.com. If you go on there this week, you'll see the link to my newest book and my other books that I'm in. All the books. And maybe one day my fucking novels that are just me. Just myself. Can you handle that much, Caleb? I don't know. We'll find out in like 10 years. I don't fucking know. I'm a fucking sad sack of shit. I'll probably be dead before then. Suck at the cock and fuck your face, and you will fuck your butt.